are these people?
This fucking guy, which I should have grabbed. Like, have you ever seen that one of his shitty profile where he looks like some weird Cro-Magnon mutant? I should have grabbed that one. But I did this one. So you're probably wondering what Elon's dome is in reference to, and it's not the good kind. So this is from Mint Press and ScheerPost by Alan MacLeod. You know, one of the good ones, but he writes the Pentagon is recruiting Elon Musk to help them win a nuclear war. You ever watch Strangelove? You should if you haven't. A lot of parallels in Strangelove. But Donald Trump has announced his intention to build a gigantic anti-ballistic missile system to counter Chinese and Russian nuclear weapons. Oh, no. Why would we do that? And he is recruiting Elon Musk to help him. The Pentagon has long dreamed of constructing an American Iron Dome. That's the dome in reference. The technology is couched in the defense language, i.e. to make America safe again. Now, Collin, do you remember the last time this was tried? There was a particular Mr. Ronald Reagan, correct? You remember that plan?
Correct.
The old Star Wars?
I do not.
That old plan?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so very similar stuff here, but like its Israeli counterpart, it would function as an offensive weapon, giving the United States the ability to launch nuclear attacks anywhere in the world without having to worry about the consequences of a similar response. Literally the plot to Strangelove, by the way, if you've not watched it. Spoilers. But, you know, that's essentially the Russians have figured out how to defend nukes, and then they launch war before then, allegedly, you know? So, giving the United States the ability to launch nuclear attacks anywhere, this power could upend the fragile peace maintained by decades of mutually assured destruction. A doctrine that has underpinned global stability since the 1940s. So, which, just because it's the Iron Dome, tired peasant, Gaza is a testing site for what will happen here. Jack's Page in agreement. So, I think yes, very much so. Washington's war planners have long salivated to the thought of winning a nuclear confrontation and have sought the ability to do so for decades. Some believe that they have found a solution and a savior in the South African-born billionaire and his technology. Neocons think tank The Heritage Foundation published a video last year stating that Musk might have solved the nuclear threat coming from
China.
It claimed that Starlink satellites from his SpaceX company could be easily modified to carry weapons that could shoot down incoming rockets. Again, Star Wars. We've tried this before. So, as they explain, Elon Musk has proven that you could put microsatellites into orbit for $1 million apiece. Using that same technology, we can put 1,000 microsatellites in continuous orbit around the Earth that can track, engage, and shoot down using tungsten slugs, missiles that are launched from North Korea, Iran, Russia, and China. Note the countries they're worried about, right? So, you know, especially that Iran one, which we tried to deal with their nukes quite a few times, no? Although the Heritage Foundation advises using tungsten slugs, i.e. bullets, as interceptors, hypersonic missiles have been opted for instead. To this end, a new organization, the Castilian Company, was established in 2023. Castilian is a SpaceX cutout. 6 of the 7 members of its leadership team and 2 of its 4 senior advisors are ex-senior SpaceX employees. The other 2 advisors are former high officials from the CIA, including Mike Griffin, Musk's longtime friend, mentor, and partner. Funny how that works. So there's Mike Griffin, in case you didn't know. Lisa Porter, Zach Dunn, Jim Martz, right? You should probably recognize those names in case you ever see them in public. Castilian's mission, in its own words, is to be at the cutting edge of a new global arms race, as the company explains. Despite the U.S. annual defense budget exceeding those of the next 10 biggest spenders combined, there's irrefutable evidence that authoritarian regimes are taking the lead in key military technologies like hypersonic weapons. Simply put, this cannot be allowed to happen. I like how it's, authoritarian regimes just because they've got better stuff than you. The company has already secured gigantic contracts with the U.S. military, and reports suggest that it has made significant strides towards its hypersonic missile goals. So, Castilian's slogan is peace through deterrence, which sounds exactly like mutually assured destruction to me, but in reality, the U.S. achieving a breakthrough in hypersonic missile technology would rupture the fragile nuclear peace that has existed for over 70 years and usher in a new era where Washington would have the ability to use whatever weapons it wished, anywhere in the world, at any time, safe in the knowledge that it would be impervious to a nuclear response from any other nation. Get it? Now no longer mutually assured. We can destroy and be fine ourselves. Allegedly. There's some nuclear fallouts not great. But in short, the fear of a nuclear retaliation from Russia or China have been one of the few forces moderating U.S. aggression throughout the world. If this is lost, the United States would have free rein to turn entire countries or even regions of the planet into vapor. This would, in turn, hand it the power to terrorize the world and impose whatever economic and political system anywhere it wishes. If this sounds fanciful, this nuclear blackmail was a more or less official policy of successive American administrations in the 40s and 50s. The United States remains the only country ever to drop an atomic bomb in anger, doing so twice in 1945 against a Japanese foe that was already defeated and was attempting to surrender. President Truman ordered the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki as a show of force, primarily to the Soviet Union. Many in the U.S. government wished to use the atomic bomb on the USSR. President Truman immediately, however, reasoned that if America nuked Moscow, the Red Army would invade Europe as a response. As such, he decided to wait until the U.S. had enough warheads to completely destroy the Soviet Union and its military. War planners calculated this figure at around 400, and to that end, totaling a nation representing 1/6 of the world's landmass. The president ordered the immediate ramping up of production. This decision was met with stiff opposition among the American scientific community and is widely believed that Manhattan Project scientists, including Oppenheimer himself, passed nuclear secrets to Moscow in an effort to speed up their nuclear project and develop a deterrent to halt this doomsday scenario. In the end, the Soviet Union was able to successfully develop a nuclear weapon before the US was able to produce hundreds. Thus, the idea of wiping the USSR from the face of the earth was shelved. Incidentally, it is now understood that the effects of dropping hundreds of nukes simultaneously would likely have sparked vast firestorms across Russia, resulting in the emission of enough smoke to choke the Earth's atmosphere, block out the sun's rays for a decade, and end organized human life as we know it on the planet. With the Russian nuclear window closing by 1949, the US turned its nuclear arsenal on the nascent People's Republic of China. The US invaded China in 1945, occupying parts of it for years until the communist forces under Mao Zedong forced both them and their nationalist KMT allies from the country. During the Korean War, some of the most powerful voices in Washington advocated dropping nuclear weapons on the 12 largest Chinese cities in response to China entering the fray. Indeed, both Truman and his successor Dwight D. Eisenhower publicly used the threat of the atomic bomb as a negotiating tactic. Routed on the mainland, the US-backed KMT fled to Taiwan, established a one-party state in 1958. The US also came close to dropping the bomb on China to protect its allies' new regime over control of the disputed land, an episode of history that resonates with the present-day conflict over Taiwan. Funny how history repeats. However, by 1964, China had developed its own nuclear warhead. effectively ending U.S. pretensions and helping to usher in the détente era of a good relations between the two powers, an epoch that lasted well into the 21st century. This is essentially, guns at people's heads until they find their own gun. And then it's like, friends? You want to be friends? Okay. So, any thoughts before I keep moving? Hey, Kate dropped us 15. So, appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
Yes. You were saying?
I just wonder how AI is going to play into all this.
Oh, yes. Good. Colin's putting his thinking cap on today. You mean like AI nuclear deterrent? You mean AI nuclear targeting?
Yes.
You mean AI nuclear defense? Yes, all those things.
Yes.
All those things. AI drone swarms that you don't even necessarily need to drop a nuke. You can drop thousands of tiny robots and they'll do the work for you, equivalent to killing the same amount of people. So
right,
for a lot
that's
cheaper.
The only reason why is Ian right, but that was the first thing in thinking about this story. Elon Musk and Pentagon, it's like AI, like Twitter, like like what's the connection there? And obviously, given the stories that you in particular have reported on, putting two and two together, and more of the use of AI basically to run everything. And given, as you reported, the error rate, depending on the industry, they could very well get things wrong.
Yeah.
To the point that could be destructive for people that it affects. So it just makes me wonder, like, to what capacity the Pentagon is using Elon to get this going in, unfortunately, for war, especially among our alleged
why,
enemies.
Right?
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
Right.
Yeah. Like, it's putting lasers on the moon. That's what we're doing, which we've argued we shouldn't do for a while now. But, we already have enough space trash in space for that. So, yeah, not great. But, no, I mean, this is same old space race, like arms race stuff, essentially, in our new Cold War era. However, in short, then, it is only the existence of a credible deterrent that tempers Washington actions around the world. Since the end of World War II, the United States has only attacked relatively defenseless countries. The reason the North Korean government remains in place, but those of Libya, Iraq, and Syria and others do not, is the existence of the former's large-scale conventional and nuclear forces. Developing an American Iron Dome could upset this delicate balance and usher in a new age of U.S. military dominance. Go, do the thing. Go, next slide. Thank you. Musk, however, has downplayed both the probability and the consequences of nuclear war. On the Lex Friedman podcast, he described the likelihood of terminal confrontation as quite low. And while speaking with Trump last year, he claimed that nuclear holocaust is not as scary as people think. I'm sorry, what? What? That not as scary as people think? Have you seen any movie with nukes? Like,
oh god.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not great. He claimed that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they are full cities again. Yeah. Yep. They've apparently never watched Godzilla either, apparently. But according to the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, there are over 12,000 warheads in the world. The vast majority of them owned by Russia and the United States, while many consider them a blight on humanity and favor their complete eradication. Musk advocates building thousands more, sending them into space and firing them at Mars. Wait, what? You say again? Thousands more, sending them into space and firing them at Mars? Like, that's okay. Why would you might do that? Well, Musk's quixotic plan is to terraform the red planet by firing at least 10,000 nuclear missiles at it. Like, Dr. Evil is running this country. I swear he is. Like, the heat generated by the bombs.
Bush had Cheney. Well, I mean, Bush had Cheney.
Yes. This
Trump
is
has
way
Musk.
worse. Way worse. The heat generated by the bombs would melt its polar ice caps, releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the greenhouse effect thus triggered. The theory goes, would raise Mars' temperature and air pressure to the point of supporting human life. Okay. Sure. Few scientists have endorsed this idea. Got it. Indeed, Dmitry Rogozin, then head of the Russian space agency Roscosmos, labeled the theory completely absurd and nothing more than a cover for filling space with American nuclear weapons aimed at Russia, China, and other nations, drawing Washington's ire. And if you don't follow the space race that closely, those Ruskies beat us to everything but the moon. Okay? They might know what they're talking about. So, we understand that one thing is hidden behind this demagoguery. Goggery, I would hope. This is a cover for the launch of nuclear weapons into space, he said. We see such attempts, we consider them unacceptable, and we will hinder this to the greatest extent possible. What do you think that means?
Mm-hmm.
That means, try me, bitch. That's what that means.
Right.
So, the first Trump administration's actions, including withdrawing from multiple international anti-ballistic missile treaties, have made this process more difficult. I wonder why. Until he entered the Trump White House, many still perceived Musk as a radical tech industry outsider. Yet, this was never the case. From virtually the beginning of his career, Musk's path had been shaped by his exceptionally close relationship with the U.S. national security state, particularly with Mike Griffin of the CIA. From 2002 to 2005, Griffin led In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capitalist wing. In-Q-Tel is an organization dedicated to identifying, nurturing, and working with tech companies that can provide Washington with cutting-edge technologies, keeping it one step ahead of its competition. We brought up In-Q-Tel before, people in the know. But Griffin was an early believer in Musk. In February 2002, he accompanied Musk to Russia, where the pair attempted to purchase cut-price intercontinental ballistic missiles to start SpaceX. Griffin spoke up for Musk in government meetings, backing him as a potential Henry Ford of the tech and military industry complex. After In-Q-Tel, Griffin became the chief administrator of NASA. In 2018, President Trump appointed him the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. While at NASA, Griffin brought Musk in for meetings and secured SpaceX's big break. In 2006, NASA awarded the company a $396 million rocket development contract, a remarkable gamble, in Griffin's words, especially as it had never launched a rocket. That, Collin, is what they call a welfare check. So,
right.
Just saying. In Griffin's words, a gamble. National Geographic wrote that SpaceX never would have gotten to where it is today without NASA, and Griffin was essential to this development. Still, by 2008, both SpaceX and Tesla were in dire straits, with Musk unable to make payroll and assuming both businesses would go bankrupt. It was at this point that SpaceX was saved by an unexpected $1.6 billion NASA contract for commercial cargo services. Man, those welfare checks keep coming, don't they? Today, the pair remain extremely close, with Griffin serving as an official advisor to Castilian, a sign of just how strong the relationship is. That in 2004, Musk named his son Griffin after his CIA handler. Today, SpaceX is a powerhouse, with yearly revenues in the tens of billions and a valuation of $350 billion. But that wealth comes largely from orders from Washington. Indeed, there are few customers for rockets other than the military or the various three-letter spying agencies. In 2018, SpaceX won a contract to blast a $500 million Lockheed Martin GPS into orbit. While military spokespersons played up the civilian benefits of the launch, the primary reason for the project was to improve America's surveillance and targeting capabilities. SpaceX has also won contracts with the Air Force to deliver its command satellite into orbit, with Space Development Agency to send tracking devices into space, and with the National Reconnaissance Office to launch its spy satellites. All the big five surveillance agencies, including the CIA and the NSA, use these satellites. Therefore, in today's world, where so much intelligence gathering and target acquisition is done via satellite technology, SpaceX has become every bit as important to the American empire as Boeing, Raytheon, and General Dynamics. Simply put, without Musk and SpaceX, the US would not be able to carry out such an invasive program of spying or drone warfare around the world. So, an example of how... Yes, sir. Which, guess who else helps us with that? Why do you think Elon and company are so connected at the hip to Israel? So, an example of how crucial Musk and his tech empire are to the continuation of U.S. global ambitions can be found in, you guessed it, Ukraine. Today, around 47,000 Starlink satellites operate inside the country. These portable satellite dishes, manufactured by SpaceX, have kept both Ukraine's civilian and military online. Many of these were directly purchased by the U.S. government via, guess what? U.S. aid or the Pentagon, and shipped to Kiev. Funny that when Mr. Elon is now boasting about him canceling USAID. Funny how that shit works. Anyway, in its high-tech war against Russia, Starlink has become the keystone of the Ukrainian military. It allows for satellite-based target acquisition and drone attacks on Russian forces. Indeed, on today's battlefield, many weapons require an internet connection. One Ukrainian official told the Times of London that he must use Starlink to target enemy forces via thermal imaging. What, you got to sign into Xbox Live while you're... What do you got to figure that shit out, bro. The controversial, what is the PlayStation Network down again? Figure it out, bro. The controversial mogul has also involved himself in South American politics. In 2019, he supported the U.S.-backed overthrow of socialist President Evo Morales. Morales suggested that Musk finance the insurrection, which he dubbed a lithium coup. When directly challenged with his involvement, Musk infamously replied, "We will coup whoever we want. Deal with it." Bolivia is home to the world's largest lithium reserves, a metal crucial in producing batteries for electric vehicles such as the one in Musk's Tesla cars, aka swastikars, but we'll get to that in a bit. In Venezuela last year, Musk went even further, supporting the U.S.-backed far-right candidate against socialist President Nicolas Maduro. He even went so far as to suggest he was working on a plan to kidnap the sitting president. "I'm coming for you, Maduro," phrasing. "I will carry you to Gitmo on a donkey," he said, referencing the notorious U.S. torture center. More recently, Musk has thrown himself into American politics, funding and campaigning for President Trump, and will now lead Trump's new Department of Government Efficiencies. Doge's stated mission is to cut unnecessary and wasteful government spending. However, with Musk at the helm, it seems unlikely that the billions in military contracts and tax incentives his companies have received will be on the chopping block. Funny how that works. There's a term when business interacts with government. I forget the term, but maybe people in our chat know.
I think it starts with.
There's a fascist. Yeah, you were saying.
Of course, because if Musk get profits, then Trump is going to profit. So, so especially given, Trump is saying he's going to try and get for a third term. I don't think that's going to happen. But by the end of this, assuming Trump is still alive, by the time he's finished with this term, it's the idea like Trump was broke or like he was, financial trouble. He's going to be rich, like probably even richer than he was before. So it's just going to benefit him in order to help his rich buddies who can essentially help with his generational wealth, so to speak.
Once you have their money, you never give it back.
Pretty much. Any other rules of acquisition, Ferengi, that might reference this?
The Ferengi without profit.
It's no Ferengi at all.
Got it. Just making sure we're on the same page. So
you put those in specifically for this
no
story, right?
No, I got a couple more. I've got something like every once in a while declare peace.
The 76th rule of acquisition.
The 76th?
Every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies.
In case another ceasefire pops up. But anyway, shout out DS9. People in the know. At Trump's inauguration, Musk garnered international headlines after gave 2 Sieg Heil salutes, gesture that his daughter felt were unambiguously Nazi. Musk, who comes from a historically Nazi-supporting family, took time out from criticizing the reaction to his salute to appear at a rally for the Alternative for Deutschland party. Springtime for Hitler, apparently. There, he said that the Germans place too much focus on past guilt and that we need to move beyond that. Can you tell that to the Israelis, dog? Can you?
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck are you talking about, dog?
Right, because they'd say that to black people all the time.
All
the time.
All the fucking time. All the fucking time.
It don't make no more fucking sense.
It really don't, Bernie. It really don't. Anyway, children should not feel guilty for the sins of their parents, their great-grandparents even, he added to raucous applause. I bet if you translated that to German, it might sound similar to some other speeches. But the tech tycoons' recent actions have provoked outrage among many Americans, claiming that fascists and Nazis do not belong anywhere near the U.S. space and defense programs. Well,
anyway, so
if we want to go back to the beginning of our space programs, there might be some fascists heavily involved. I don't know. I've heard some things about Wernher von Braun. Just saying what I'm saying. Okay? In reality, however, these projects from the very beginning were overseen by top German scientists brought over after the fall of Nazi Germany, aka Operation Paperclip, transported more than 16,000 German scientists to America, including the father of the American lunar project, Wernher von Braun. Von Braun was a member of both the Nazi Party and the infamous elite SS paramilitary, whose members oversaw Hitler's extermination camps. Including him, there's been very specific accusations against him, and especially his rocket facilities in Germany. So, thus, Nazism and the American Empire have, for a long time, gone hand in hand. Far more disturbing than a man with fascist sympathies being in a position of power in the U.S. military or space industry. However, is the ability the United States is seeking for itself to be impervious to intercontinental missile attacks from its competitors. On the surface, Washington's Iron Dome plan may sound defensive in nature, but in reality, it would give it a free hand to attack any country or entity around the world any way it wishes, including with nuclear weapons. This would upend the fragile nuclear peace that has reigned since the early days of the Cold War. Elon Musk's help in this endeavor is much more worrying and dangerous than any salutes or comments he could ever make. But they do kind of go along with it, especially his family ties. You know, especially if you're South African diamond millionaires. You know, apartheid must run in the blood, I guess. I
guess.
Thoughts, closing statements, you know, words from the jury.
Play Misties.
Oh yeah, I can find that.
That's all I can say.
Do the thing. It takes a minute. I have a lot in the Misty folder. There it goes. I gotta move that over to the other side. We use it more than, you know, I shouldn't have it that far away. But yeah, I mean, rough world. Keep an eye out for anyone trying to say anything that guy is doing is even barely good, because it's always bullshit once you get a layer deep. And please do keep looking layers deep. Thank you very much. Doing that is probably why we're demonetized on YouTube. So you can scan that QR code on your screen. Go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, or links in the description below. But if you can't, you know, like and subscribe, hit the share button, send this to your friends who think Elon's a good guy. Let us know what you think about Elon in the comments section below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.